Dear my friend, today again we will study with the elasticity topics in the fundamentals of economics. You can follow the book if you did buy. Last week, if you remember, we had studied elasticity topics, varieties of elasticity. With elasticity, there's an advantage over there. If you use the arc elasticity formula, there was no problem between the change of the price and quantity amount. Importance of it in terms of producer or company owner. Again, some governmental experts can use the coefficient of elasticity of demand while making a decision, governmental decision. Income elasticity of demand was the last topic of the last course. If you remember, again, according to changing elasticity coefficients, goods were classified into three sections. So normal goods, compulsory goods, and luxury goods. And today we will discuss the cross elasticity of demand. At page 42. If you look at the definition, cross means cross like a price plus sign, positive sign. It means that changeable some impacts on some goods can affect the other goods. So in economy, some goods may be interchangeable. You can find substitute goods. Substitute in Turkish, ikame. If you did find the price of related good is expensive for you, you can change to other goods. And change the supermarkets as well. It's possible. Again, some supermarkets can use high price policy. You can change the supermarkets, so therefore you can take some price advantage. And some goods may be interchangeable, and some goods may be substitute. Yes. The change in the price of one of these goods may affect the demand amount of the other, according to cross elasticity topic. We had made an introduction of the cross elasticity of demand. In the textbook, there is a formula which is similar to demand elasticity and income elasticity. If you remember, I did talk about the elasticity topic. It is only relationship between numerator and denominator. So in this time, we are using the cross price elasticity formula again. On the denominator, it's gonna be price of goods. And then at the numerator, we will observe the other amounts quantity change. So we are again concerning the change, we are using quantity change of X and other goods. So we will classify the goods, substitute goods, and complementary goods according to changing cross price elasticity sign. Important point here. So the coefficient of cross elasticity of demand of goods X with respect to goods Y, and we can show it E subscript XY it means that price of y is changing, quantity of x changing. Yes, e xy, e subscript xy means that price of y is changing at the denominator, and quantity of amount of x is changing at the numerator. X with good respect to good y, e subscript xy, it measures the percentage change in the amount of x purchased per unit of time resulting from a given percentage change in the price of y. Actually, it is not different from the demand elasticity and income elasticity. Only we are using the price at the denominator. We are using the quantity at the numerator. If you use the price of y at the denominator, you have to use the quantity x at the numerator. You can observe the formula at page 42, bottom of the page. You can observe what I'm saying verbally. If according formula, if x and y are substitutes, you can change exy, e subscript xy is positive because price change at x affected demand of good y. In the same way, it is very case in our life. For instance, if you find of a goods price high according to you, and you can change the amount of goods x consumption, so you can change to other goods, for instance z, for instance other type of goods. So substitution is possible, I mean. So price change at x affect the demand of good y in the same way. On the other hand, if x and y are complements, if it is so, e subscript xy is negative. Yes. We are talking about the complementary type. X and y are complementary goods. You have to use both of them simultaneously. So it means that if sugar prices are increasing and you have to increase sugar prices is increasing, you can decrease the consumption of sugar. But if you use tea or coffee with sugar, you can decrease tea or coffee amount as well. So both of them is acting in the same way, positive or negative. In mathematically, if you dividing by each other, both of them, you can find the positive sign. So it means that complementary goods, substitute goods are moving in the contrary to each other. So elasticity of the cross elasticity of demand is a little bit confusing, but it's okay, no problem. If you look at the page 43, there's a substitute goods and complement goods tables. If you look at the table 3.1, you can observe the substitute goods, for instance, filter coffee and soluble coffee. You can change from filter coffee if you find the price of soluble coffee. Again, if you find the price of soluble coffee is high, you can observe, you can prefer the filter coffee. So it is interchangeable. For instance, you have to pay 20 US dollars a cup of soluble coffee, and you are using 40 gram amounts in a month, and filter coffee price is 40 US dollars, and you are using 50 gram per month. And now we are increasing the price of filter coffee from 40 US dollars to 60 US dollars. Now you can decrease the quantity of filter coffee amounts. So, for instance, 30 gram per month, and you can increase your soluble coffee amounts. It was 20, again it is same, 20 US dollars a cup of soluble coffee, and it means that you will increase your consumption at soluble coffee. It is changing from 40 grams to 50 grams according to table 3.2. You can calculate the cross elasticity of demand. For instance, according to definition, cross elasticity of demand, E subscript XY, percentage change amount of X purchased dividing by percentage change in the price of Y. E subscript XY again equals delta Q subscript X dividing by QX dividing by delta PY P subscript Y dividing by P subscript Y. It equals dQX dividing by dPY times PY dividing by QX. We little bit make a correction in order to understand the formula well. Now it is ready, our formula. I will show you. If you look at the whiteboard in our home, there's no whiteboard, you know. This is my whiteboard. I did write cross elasticity of demand. You can observe the E subscript XY, what I'm saying in the formula, percentage change amount of X purchased and dividing by percentage change in the price of Y. In the denominator, you can observe the price of Y. You can observe the changing amount of X at the numerator. So there is a little bit correction at the formula. You can observe the formula. You can use the cross price elasticity of demand with this formula. Let's look at the table 3.2 and calculate the cross elasticity of a demand. QX subscript 2 minus QX subscript 1 dividing by PY subscript 2 minus PY subscript 1 in the first term minus the second term. The second term is PY subscript 1 dividing by QX subscript 1 equals 50 minus 40 dividing by 50 minus 40. We are passing the second term times 40 dividing by 40 equals finally 0.5. It is cross elasticity of demands. We find positive signs. Positive signs, it means that positive signs indicates substitute goods. So they are moving in the same way. soluble coffee price is increasing, and filter coffee prices is increasing. Soluble coffee price is decreasing. It means that filter coffee consumption amount is decreasing. So numerator and denominator is moving are moving in the same way. It indicates positive sign. If you look at the sugar and tea case, these are complement goods. You can use sugar and tea together. Sugar is indicated with letter Z, and tea is indicated with the letter of V. This time QV2 minus QV1 dividing by PZ2 minus PZ1. This is first term according to formula, times we are passing to second term PZ1 dividing by QV1 subscript 1 equals 35 minus 40 divided by 20 minus 10. This is first term. We are passing the second term times 10 dividing by 40 equals minus 0.125. Finally, we defined the minus coefficient of cross elasticity of demand. Minus sign, negative sign, indicates complementary goods. It means that numerator and denominator is not moving in the same way, my friend. So this is my whiteboard. Let's look at my whiteboard. You can observe the formula and calculation, how we are calculating the cross price elasticity. So complementary goods indicates negative sign. Substitute goods indicates positive sign. This is the cross price elasticity. The only thing you have to know in the cross price elasticity, percentage change in the price of Y is located in the denominator. Percentage change amount of X purchased is located in the numerator. So according to this explanation, the formula is changing. In the formula, we are using the delta Py dividing by Py at the denominator. At the numerator, we are using the delta Qx dividing by Qx. So we can correct the formula. It's up to you. Delta Qx divided by delta Py in the first term times Py dividing by Qx in the second term. You can write. According to these formulas, we did calculate the substitute goods and complement goods cross price elasticity, and we did find minus and positive, negative and positive signs according to changing tables, table 2, 3, table 2, 3. Again, you can observe and you can find calculations. For instance, we can find some goods in the real life. For instance, automobile and gasoline prices. These are complementary relationship indicates. Theater tickets, cinema tickets can be substitute goods. Olive oil, sunflower oil, indicates substitution. Honey and jam, substitution. Mobile phone, rechargeable battery, it's complementary relationship. So we can increase the cases in our life. You can, for instance, increase the cases if you want as homework. Now we can pass now to the price elasticity of supply. There's no difference between demands, but this time we will find the positive coefficient of elasticity, because it is coming from the law of supply. If you remember, according to law of supply, supply means producer action. Producers are acting according to increasing prices. While prices are increasing in the markets, producers or suppliers tend to increase their amount of quantity. They want to release their goods according to increasing price levels. So this relationship, this positive relationship, reflects the coefficient of price supply elasticity formula. Now this time always we will find the positive price positive supply elasticity. If you find at the exam negative sign, probably you are in the wrong way. You have to control the calculations. You have to find positive coefficient of supply. Again, you have to find positive sign at the exam. If you find negative sign at the supply price elasticity of supply, probably you are in the wrong way. You have to calculate. You have to control again the calculations. You can find here formula at page 44. I'm not writing here again one more time. I'm not bothering you. Coefficient of price elasticity of supply, E subscript S, measures the percentage change in the quantity supplied of goods per unit time, delta Q dividing by Q, resulting from a given percentage in a consumer's price, delta P divided by delta dividing delta P dividing P, delta P dividing P. Thus, we can write the price elasticity of supply in easy form. Delta Q dividing by delta P. This is first term. The second term minus times P dividing by Q. So when the supply curve is positively sloped, this is the explanation of analytical geometrically, the usual case. Price and quantity move in the same direction, and E subscript S will be greater than 0. So the supply curve is said to be elastic if ES is greater than 1, and it is inelastic if ES less than 1, and unitary elastic if ES equals 1. Okay, arc and point ES can be found in the same way as in the demand elasticity. I'm not teaching here. We did talk about many times. When the supply curve is a positively sloped straight line, then all along the line ES will be greater than 1. Yes, if the line crosses the price axis, ES less than 1. If it crosses the quantity axis, and ES equal 1 if it goes through the origin. You can find an example, but there's a correction. Be careful here. There's many mistakes arising from me. Here I made some corrections. I will show you my whiteboard here. For instance, at the example, look at the table at 45, page 45. We are examining the action from A to C. We are passing from A to C, point A to C, and from C to A. We have to find, we will use the first formula. We will find different elasticity coefficients with this main formula. And then we will use the arithmetic mean method. At the action from A to C, ES equals blah blah blah. This is formula. 40,000 minus 4,000 minus 8,000 dividing by 4 minus 6. This is first term. And the second term times 6 dividing by 8,000. Now, with this formula, we calculate the coefficient of supply 1.5. Okay, now it's time to calculate the action of passing from C to A, dividing by 4,000. This is first term times 4 dividing by 2. This is second term equals 2. As you can understand, we did find different supply elasticity, price elasticity of supply, different coefficients. We did find different amounts, 1.5 and 2. But with the same logic, from A to C, from C to A, it must be same. But we find difference, 1.5 and 2. Let's look at it from A to D and from D to A. First of all, we are examining the from A to D. ES, first term, 2,000 minus 8,000 dividing by 3 minus 6 and times 3 plus 6 dividing by 8,000 plus 2,000. This is second term. If you calculate the coefficient, you will find the 1.8. 1.8. Please keep in mind. From D to A, ES equals 8,000 minus 2,000 dividing by 6 minus 3. This is first term. The second term times 6 plus 3 dividing by 2,000 plus 8,000. If you calculate the coefficients, you will find the 1.8. It is the same. We use the arithmetic mean method, and we reached to the same elasticity coefficients with the arithmetic mean method, and we found positive elasticity. All calculations indicate positive supply elasticity. This is my whiteboard. You can observe, and you have to correct your textbook at 45. There's a little bit mixed and incorrect statements over there. This is correct statements that will be replaced by 45 page. I am showing my whiteboard and all calculations. Here you are observing the difference between coefficients. We used here main formula, and here you are observing the equal coefficients of supply elasticity, and here we are using the arithmetic mean method. Mostly we will use the arithmetic mean method. We can arc elasticity again, we can say. We reached the same elasticity coefficient. We found positive elasticity. This is main points that will be kept in our mind. So now we learned the price elasticity of supply, but we don't know which factors affect the size of the coefficient of price elasticity of supply. It is similar to demand elasticity, but now we have to consider the producer sides and other sides of the market gamers, market players. For instance, first of all, the nature of the industry can affect the difference differently to the coefficient of supply. For instance, features of related industry may facilitate to supply increases in response to an increase in the price of the product. If the necessary inputs, for instance, can be easily found in existing market prices, as in the textile industry, for instance, yes, then we can say that output can be greatly increased when market prices rises slightly. Okay, in the textile sector, we can find produce inputs easily in the market, so our reaction will be easily compared to other sectors. So coefficient of the supply elasticity depends on the nature of the industry. On the other hand, if production capacity is severely limited, as in gold mines, for instance, there's a case in the textbook, even a very large increase in price of gold, we cannot increase our gold production. We can increase small increase in production, so we cannot respond easily according to changing prices coming from the market. So according to sectors, supply elasticity can be changeable. So nature constraints again, for instance, agricultural sectors depends on nature severely. Nature again affect the coefficients. Mostly you cannot increase the amount of goods, agricultural goods easily. For instance, you have to time, you need to time to produce some things in the agricultural sector. And risk appetite of the firms take risks without considering the price change. Again, the willingness of entrepreneurs tasks, my friends, also affects price elasticity of supply. The nature of the goods, as with demand elasticity, the most important determinant of elasticity of supply is the availability of substitutes. In the context of supply, substitute goods are those to which factors of production can most easily be transferred. For example, a farmer can easily move from growing wheat to producing sunflower, but in a textile fabric, you cannot change your sector easily. Again, time also exerts a considerable influence on the elasticity of supply. Supply is more elastic in the long run than in the short run. The reason is easy to find out. The longer the time period, the easier it's to shift resources among products following a change in their relative price. The cost of attracting resources, if raw material prices increase, cost of production increases, supply becomes relatively inelastic, and vice versa. The level of price, for instance, in the highest price levels, producers reach their production capacity. Therefore, they cannot respond easily rising according to rising prices. And factor mobility, we can find cheaper inputs if inputs move from one place to another. So factor mobility can affect the supply coefficient, supply elasticity, price elasticity of supply. My friends, today I will end up the today's course. We will discuss the production and costs. Totally, we will complete the production chapter 4. And next week we will pass to a macroeconomic overview. A little bit confusing according to me. Production and costs, my friend, will be discussed at the next week. For the time being, take care.